start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna smoke.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go. Just perfect.
When they lose their front shoulders, that's how you know they're smoking.
Went about 5-10 more yards. He probably went 20 yards total. Tipped over, tried getting back up. And I saw him pull up.
We rushed 40 years rods that night. We got like 156 and something like that. And then the next day we came out to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
Hello. What's going on, everybody? 144. I said it. I didn't need your help. Episode 144. Tom's here helping out tonight.
Glad to be here in the studio.
Happy to have you. And so what are we talking about? I'm just joking. Nick, you're here too. Nick's here.
Yep. So what are we talking about, Frank?
Post-rut. We've been talking. We talked early season. We talked middle of the season, like pre-rut action. We talked full-blown rut action last week. And now we're going to talk a little post-rut. Season's cooling down. We're kind of getting to the end of our archery season, beginning a rifle season, and how we go about things in that little time frame there.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of it's going to be tough because we all have theories, but most of us don't kill like in that. I guess more like...
And we never really got the chance to bow hunt post-rut in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, New York we do, which is
we
nice.
talked about it last week, how we just got extended a week of our archery season in PA. Like you said, we've been able to do it in New York, but not in PA
I feel like most
until
of
just last year.
Most of the references we'll be making here will be in relation to our New York hunting, just because
we haven't been able to do it.
Yeah,
in PA.
past history, it seems like rut's just ramping up in PA, and then
we
cut
get
off.
thrown out of the woods.
Yeah. So I know for me, especially up in New York, there's a lot of ag fields up there, and by this time of year, all of that stuff's cut. And that's why we believe it's so important to make sure we have late fall, early winter food on our property, because once that rut's over, in that time period, bucks really only care about one thing, and that's the does, and that's breeding, and they don't care about anything else. They've been running ragged for a long time. They're malnourished, they're tired, and they're back on food big time. So,
yeah, they need to try to get a little bit of bulk back on them for winter.
Yeah, and I think, if you're hunting in the mountains, I don't know exactly. I can't really tell you much about that. I
can't speak on that at all.
But if you've got food on your property, that's the best chance for me to see deer at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they're almost back to being patternable again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think not so much for during our rifle season, because we don't have much of a break between the two, so they don't really quite get back into that full-blown pattern before they get blown up by a million rifle hunters in PA. But later on in the season, towards late season, they get wicked patternable again.
Yeah.
Back to summer pattern. Not the same pattern, but as easy to follow as that.
Yeah. And that's one thing I feel like I've never had great luck in late season, and I don't know if it's just a lack of that good food.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know Tom and I we really like to have radishes or turnips on the property. And if I've heard of guys, and I want to consider doing this, but if you get a snow, they'll actually try and clean the food plot off.
Mm-hmm.
If you get 2 foot of snow, it's a lot harder for the deer to eat them.
Yeah.
And I've
What are they doing to clean it off?
Shovel.
It's a lot of shoveling.
Probably plowing it a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if people are doing this, in our area where we do get 2-3 foot of snow.
Yeah, they're probably doing it. Yeah,
maybe 5-6 inches.
Like a light powder where you could hit it with a leaf blower.
Yeah. Even then, the deer are gonna dig through that. So
yeah.
But when we've 3 feet of wet, heavy shit.
Yeah, and then you get that one day that warms up a little bit and turns it into ice.
Yeah.
It does make it hard for the deer to eat. So if you've got a spot where the deer can eat, it's going to be hot.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
I think Tom, you're one of the few. I guess I have a muzzleloader buck.
I've never killed a muzzleloader buck.
So I want to turn the table over to Tom here. What are you doing late season for? Because like you've gotten 2 with your muzzleloader.
Got 1 with a flintlock and 2 with an inline.
Okay, so walk me through. What are you doing?
Same thing. Every single deer I have shot in the late season has either been over food or on the way to food. Actually, 2 were on food, 1 was on its way to food. But like Nick said, those bucks, they run ragged during November. I think it's something ridiculous, like they can lose up to 25% of their full body weight. So if a buck's, 200, a big mature buck's 200 pounds, 25%, that's 50 pounds. That, yeah.
In like a 2-week span.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because they don't eat, all they do is run. And like you'll see a buck running and their tongue's hanging out, they're breathing heavy, they look like they're about to freaking die.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of unfortunate that they lose all of their body weight right before the harsh winter.
Yeah.
So
I think
like,
Mother Nature would have changed that up a little bit.
Yeah. So they obviously have to really bulk up from mid to late November to mid-December. They have 1 month before winter's really in full swing. So they're just going to be eating. So corn, I like to hunt corn. Beans, standing beans, if you're lucky enough to have standing beans in late November, early December. Turnips, radishes, any fall foliage, something that's like heavy substance. I'm not focusing on clover fields.
Yeah.
But yeah, turnips, radish, beans, corn.
Yeah, if I can find standing corn, I'm all about that.
And then even when it shifts from, towards winter to middle of winter, when you have, 2 feet of snow, really the only thing that's exposed is corn or browse. Like back in the woods, like just the ends of twigs and whatnot. They actually eat that quite a bit. But they'll dig through some snow to get down to the turnips and radishes, but I haven't personally had success hunting 3 feet of snow over a turnip field. But corn, on the other hand, yeah.
I think if you get like a good melt, because a lot of times we'll get a good melt in January, I think then it would be very productive.
Oh, big time.
To do that, because they can actually get at that stuff now that the snow's gone. Before they get hammered again with another 2 feet of snow, they can really get in there and do some damage on that stuff.
And this is a great, it's always important to stay in tune with the weather and know what's coming up. But if you can catch where there's going to be, it's going to be calm, but there's a wicked storm coming, say at 9 o'clock at night, that is a great time to hunt a field edge. I don't know how the deer do it without the internet, but they know when a storm's coming. And if there's a storm coming,
Probably can feel it in their knees.
Yeah,
probably. But if there's a storm coming, just a couple hours after dark, they're going to hit those fields early, fill up as much as they can, and then hunker down and weather the storm.
Yeah, I love hunting right before a storm. If we're supposed to get a good storm, even like the following morning, I love hunting fields that night. That's some of the, like, I don't think I've ever killed like a nice buck, but you're always going to have a ton of action.
Yeah. I've seen 50 plus deer on nights like that.
Yeah, me too.
So,
what about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I hunt pretty darn hard through like October, November.
Well, it doesn't show. You don't kill a whole lot.
Debatable. I've been on a dry spell.
We've all been there.
But I just... You're lucky it's not a video podcast. I lose a little bit of momentum come late season. Like I'm not
a fair weather hunter.
I wouldn't say that. It's just I go
You've been
from
grinding hard.
I hunt at least usually 5 days a week, for a couple months. And then,
Tom doesn't get the luxury because he doesn't hunt most of the season because he works until 5 o'clock. But you and I have real jobs, and we can hunt pretty much every day. So
by the time late season comes, I still hunt every week, but I just don't get out as much as I could be.
Yeah.
And part of that, I think, too, is the fact that, like, by that time it's getting dark at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I only get like an hour of light after work. And
1 hour's better than no hours.
Yeah, and this wasn't always the case, but last year with the winter we had, I didn't get any time to hunt because I was working 7 days a week.
Yeah, I was the same
12
way.
hours a day.
I don't think I went out but like 2 or 3 times in the
Yeah,
late season.
well,
because-
you and I basically, the weather controls our jobs in the wintertime.
Yeah.
For sure. So both of us, if you're busy at work, I'm busy at work.
Yeah.
And Frank and I pretty much lived at the garage for about a month or so straight. It's like every day.
Yeah, we had a super timid December. It was,
January was just brutal. Yeah,
just as soon as, like, after the new year, it was like January 2nd, we got a
Snowed every
storm,
day.
and we got snow every single day in January. It was a nightmare.
I was out of buck tags by then.
But for me, if I do get the chance to get out, if I get a weekend or whatever, I love big cornfields, ones that mostly cut, but like have some stalks and patches. I like stuff like that so you can shoot a long ways. And then even I love taking a gun for a walk through a thicket too.
I'm all about that.
And I don't think that's
one
something
of my favorite
we haven't
ways to
mentioned
hunt.
that yet. But that's one of my favorite ways to hunt that late season, especially it's so damn cold. If you're sitting in a lock-on or a ladder or something, I don't care what you do. You sit there for very long, it's going to get cold.
Yeah.
I have not figured out the science behind staying warm, sitting for 10 hours.
When it's
What are those bodysuits called?
The IWAMs that
oh yeah,
Scott Thompson's
he
a big
talked
fan.
about those. He said they're freaking sweet.
So maybe that would stop me from doing it, but I actually enjoy it. I love, taking the old gun for a walk, walk a little while, sit down, find a log, and just kind of still hunt through the day. And I've had many opportunities to shoot like does doing that. I've never killed anything doing that, but I do really, really enjoy that style of hunting too.
I've killed does. I missed an opportunity at a buck last year doing it. I like kind of saw where I wanted to get to see something, and I went about 5 steps too far, and he jumped up. If I would have stopped a little bit shorter and looked around a little bit, I probably would have been able to pick him out because he was only 40 yards in front of me, but I just went a little too far, and
yeah, that's
boogered
one of
it
them
up.
grass
Big
is
one?
always greener.
yeah, it was a real nice buck. It wasn't a giant, but it was 125 inches probably.
When I'm doing that, I always think, if I just get to that tree, just like a little bit further.
I always try to not do that when I'm doing that type of hunting. I try to never have a destination in mind, just
it's probably
because
good.
I've been burned doing exactly what I just said. You go just a little bit too far trying to get to this one spot. If you just slowly pick your way, you're obviously paying attention to what's going on ahead of you, but you're not like, okay, I got to get to that tree, then I'll look around. I got to get to this spot, then I'll look around.
You want to be looking as if
You need
every
to-
step is your last
step is where you're stopping and looking. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's annoying to do, and while you're doing it, it's like, this is stupid. Like I'm wasting
I'm not
a lot
gonna
of
miss
time.
anything.
If I take 10 steps and not look, then it's not going to hurt anything. But I've been hurt a bunch of times doing that. So
Yeah, because you just don't know where in that 10 steps that's going to happen.
yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a lot of fun to hunt that way. I love doing it in the late season and even in rifle season.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite way to hunt with snow on the ground.
Yeah, because you can move
tracks.
so quiet. If you get fresh powder, you can move dead silent. And
You paying attention to wind when you're doing that?
yeah,
Walking into the wind?
As much as you can. I mean, if you walk all day, there's no way that you can be in perfect wind direction all the time.
or like sometimes, like if I see something or if I get on a nice track, I'll follow a track, and then I might not be perfect with the wind at all times because they're going to meander around. But again, you just got to keep your head up and always looking ahead and make sure you aren't doing something in addition to not having the wind in your favor if it's not at that particular time.
I don't seem to get winded or get winded by deer as much in the winter. And I think it has something to do with what I talked about a couple weeks ago with the heat of the candles.
Yeah.
I believe when it's that cold, I don't think your scent travels as far as it does when it's warmer.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm paying attention to wind. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. How often do you guys get like deer blowing during rifle season at you?
Not often.
Now that I think of it, not often.
Yeah, exactly. Like it happens a lot in archery season, and then
But it's 40 degrees warmer.
exactly. And I think there's some science to that. I've never read anything on it, but like I said, I correlate it to the same thing with the candle. Heat always amplifies scent. You know,
Yeah.
warm apple pie and everything. Like I think cold does the exact opposite. So I personally don't believe that the wind direction is as important as it is with archery, but I still do pay attention to it.
Yeah. I mean, you always want to keep as many things in your favor as possible.
Yeah.
But
But like you said, if I get on a good track,
I'm not just going to skip out on it because the wind's not exactly perfect. But
yeah.
it's still something you want to pay attention to. Or if like you're on that track and you see he's like kind of looping around something, and you're like, I can kind of go this way and get back on his track and kind of keep the wind in your favor, then do that. But for the most part, I don't think it's as hurtful in the winter.
Yeah, it's really nice after you know it snowed. You knew it snowed the night before, because it's just easier to tell with tracks and stuff. I sometimes have a hard time picking like fresh versus old in snow. If there's been no recent snowfall, it's tough. One thing I have noticed is fresh tracks seem to have, like, even if it hasn't snowed in days, fresh tracks seem to have like snow kicked up around it. Like you can see little snowflakes and stuff, where old tracks, it's, even though it hasn't snowed in days, that stuff settles.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for is,
Yeah, if there's like a little bit of mud, if the ground that it hit right there was kind of muddy, you'll see
like little
in
brown
front of the track or behind the track, there's little speckles of mud or something.
and yeah, but if it's been there for a while, you'll notice that they're
sunk in.
they're
or
sunk
gone.
in, or yeah.
And the sharpness of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
if it's frozen.
Yeah, like a deer's hoof, there's like pointed at the tip. But as, you know, time wears on and those tracks get more worn and melt and freeze, those points tend to get more
Less profound,
rounded
yeah.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start to look just like holes in the ground.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah. Tom, what do you do much of the walking and still hunting?
Tried it once last year. Could have shot a bunch of doe.
That's
It's
yeah.
usually pretty good for shooting does.
Yeah, I ended up videotaping a ton of does last year doing that. There's this one. Well, I know both of you have seen it. We have right on the edge of the swamp. There's a hemlock that grows at like a 90 out of the bank and then up.
Yeah.
I stand right on that thing and just lean up against the tree there, and I saw, I think, like 6 does just standing there. And the only reason I didn't shoot it or shoot any of them is because I was by myself and didn't feel like handling it. Like it wouldn't
doe
be
in the swamp.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, could it be done? Yeah, but I'm not gonna do it for a doe.
Yeah.
like a
If it
buck.
was a nice buck, hell yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't about to do that for a doe.
Right.
Yeah, if you were up on the field edge, 100 yards from the truck maybe, but back in the swamp,
Yeah,
probably not.
my truck was way up at the cabin, so it's. I would like to clock that sometime and see what that distance is, but I bet you it's got to be close to a mile to go like around the perimeter of the road.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Tom?
Yeah. Ish.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that on X. I've always been curious because we've had to do that walk
A bunch
multiple
of
times, and it always seems to take longer than what you think it should.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys got anything else for late season?
No, that's about it.
Don't wear steel toes. Tried that
Yeah,
one.
Yep,
that's-
been there.
Nick did that for a long time, like
Yeah.
an idiot.
Well, I was, broke and didn't have like my mud boots I got, last Christmas had been, already worn out or whatever. So
Full of holes.
Yeah, the only boots I had were, leather, loggers.
But then you started the podcast and really started raking in the dough, and now you can afford a nice pair of insulated boots.
No, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, but don't wear steel toes.
Yeah, that's a dumb idea.
I'm trying to think. So next week, the next release of the podcast, the season will have already started, but we'll have to record.
Dad should be home next week, so
Ooh, so we do
talk
like
a little
Alaskan adventure.
Yeah, he should be home. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, Alaska is one of them things.
You never know if you're gonna get out on time or not. So
no. Yeah, that'll be exciting. I guess we can give a little spoiler, and I'm just gonna say that they had a hell of a season up there this year.
yes, they did. They had a very good
Some
season.
very big animals went down, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. You guys
And-
just tune in a couple weeks.
There's gonna be a lot of stuff that you'll be hearing at the same time I hear it for the first time, because like you guys, if you've been listening for a while, we do the Alaskan episodes every year, and we don't really get much info because they're 100 miles from the nearest civilization, and it's arguably not even civilization.
Yeah.
So it's always a really good time to hear those stories because it almost sounds like it's from another world, that far off into the mountains. But yeah, so look forward to that. And I think we can officially, I mean, this is Friday night. We're recording this. We're off our typical schedule, but we are, I would say, officially on the countdown.
Yeah.
This time in 7 days,
We'll be doing
like
it.
having a beer, cheers into the season all over again. So
Yeah. I'm pumped.
I hope you guys are as excited as we are, and just make sure you guys are all still getting outside.